Welcome, and today we're going to talk about 1.7 multiplying and dividing integers, and it is day, which is a shocker, right? Maybe my brain will be fully engaged. Middle of the day, I think I can do this pretty good. Okay, so we want to look at a few rules before we get started. This will be really quick. There won't be a lot of discussion, but there are some rules that will help us. Okay, let's look at number one. Rule number one: the product or quotient of two integers with the same sign is always positive. Okay, so if they have the same sign, whether both positive or both negative, they're always the answer is always positive. The product of, or quotient of two integers with different signs is negative. Okay, so the only way they two can have different signs is one is positive and one is negative. So I get a negative answer for that. Number three, the product of any integer and zero is zero. That's pretty obvious. Zero times anything is zero. And then the quotient of 0 and any non-zero integer is 0. And there's a rule that I would like to add to that. Um, the next one, when multiplying or dividing more than two integers, it's always helpful to know this. An odd number of negatives in the problem yields a negative answer. So I've got 3, 5, 7, or 9. Any odd number of negatives, I'm going to get a negative answer for that. An even number of negatives yields a positive answer. So, I've got 2 negatives, 4 negatives, 6 negatives, anything like that, I will get a positive answer. Okay, so let's look at some examples that will help us understand these rules. Okay, here we want to look at the product. It says find the product or quotient. Now all these on here are products, so let's look at one at a time. 9 times negative 11. So I'm going to multiply normally. That's going to give me 99. And then how many negatives do I have? Well, I've got one negative, so I get a negative answer. One is an odd number, okay? And I get a negative answer. Again, they have different signs, so when I multiply, I get a negative answer. Number two, well, they both have the same sign. So whether positive or negative, I'm going to get a positive answer. 6 times 8 is 48. Okay, here 0 times anything, doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, is definitely 0. Okay? Here, negative 4 times negative 8 both have the same sign. My answer will be positive. 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, down here, I've got three numbers. Let's just multiply first. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. Now let's count how many negatives I've got. 1, 2. I've got an even number of negatives, so my answer is positive. Okay, look at number 6. I've got negative 1 times negative 3 times negative 5. We'll just multiply normally. 5 times 3 is 15 times 1 is 15. Now let's count how many negatives we have. 1, 2, 3. That is an odd number of negatives, so my answer is negative. Okay, look at this one. 2 times 4 times negative 6. Multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. I've got one negative, so that's an odd number of negatives, so my answer is negative. Here I've got negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. When we multiply, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. And I've got 1, 2, 3 negatives. That's an odd number of negatives, so I get a negative answer. Okay, let's look at the next page. Should be some quotient problems. Good. So let's divide normally. 24 divided by 3 is 8. I've got one negative, so I get a negative answer. Number 2, 0 divided by any number, positive or negative, is definitely 0. 0 is not negative or positive, so it's just 0. Number 3, negative 35 divided by negative 7. That gives me 5 when I divide. I've got an even number of negatives, so my answer is positive. Number 4, 24 divided by negative 6. Well, that's going to be 4, and I've got one negative, so I get a negative answer. Number 5, again, these are quotient problems, even though they're fractions. It's still a quotient problem. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is positive 5. I've got two negatives, I get a positive answer. 48 divided by 12, well, that is 4. I've got one negative, so I get a negative answer. Okay. Number 7, negative 100 divided by negative 5. What's 100 divided by 5? Well, that's 20. I've got two negatives, so it's a positive 20. 8, negative 52 divided by 4. Well, 4 goes into 52 13 times. Okay, and I've got one negative, so it's a negative 13. Okay, let's look at the next group here. Determine whether the answer is positive or negative. Okay, so let's look at the first one. We're not going to have to get an answer. We just want to know what the sign of the answer is. So it's a division and multiplication. It's got a mix of division and multiplication. That's all right. That's pretty easy. Let's count our negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is an odd number of negatives. So my answer, let's choose a different color just to help us out here. My answer for this one is definitely going to be negative. Okay, whatever that one is. Look at number 2. Well, I'm multiplying 4 things together. I've got 2 negatives total, so my answer is going to be positive. Okay, number 3, let's count our negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Total of 6 negatives. Well, we're going to get a positive answer. I'm kind of writing crooked now, but that's all right. Well, 4. Negative 4 to the 4th. That's really negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4 gives us a positive answer. Okay, I hope this helps. Don't get this confused with our rules for addition and subtraction. Again, with product and quotients, if I have an even number of negatives, I get a positive answer. If I have an odd number of negatives, I get a negative answer. And of course, if everything's positive, we're good. You know the answer to that. Now remember with addition and subtraction, same sign, you find the sum, and then you give your answer the sign of both the numbers. For subtraction, different signs, find the difference, then the biggest number, whatever the sign is on the biggest number, is the sign of the answer, whether negative or positive. Okay, hope this helps.